All right, so we got a few things we're going to get into with this one. First up, we got 3 election officials accused of voter fraud, suspected of tampering with the ballots, submitting false voter documents, even changing votes. I mean, all this feels like another reason why the SAFE Act is needed. After that, we're going to get into another Democrat-run city making headlines. Instead of backing their law enforcement, they decided to suspend the officer for contacting the Border Patrol, you guys. I mean, listen, this is just another example of how these Democrat-led cities are drifting further away from common sense governance, really. As always, make sure you smash the thumbs up button if you do enjoy the content, and to stay locked in with future videos, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, make sure your notification bells are turned on. That way YouTube always lets you know when I drop. Let's get right into it.
First tonight, voter fraud allegations rocking a small town in South Alabama. 3 people arrested accused of filling out bogus absentee ballots.
That's a story we broke on all of our digital platforms this afternoon. Our Natalie Williamson has your late reporting from Frisco City in Monroe County.
Natalie, the accusations are related to last year's municipal election there.
That's right, Lenise and Cameron. The 3 women were arrested today for voter fraud in connection to the Frisco City municipal election last August. This big development follows a lawsuit that was filed, which also alleges wrongdoing in the August election. Tonight, election cheating allegations in small-town Alabama. 3 women accused of rigging a bunch of absentee ballots. Court documents filed today in Monroe County reveal a grand jury indicted 67-year-old Sharon Denson, 46-year-old Samantha Kiles, and 59-year-old Sarah Bennett for illegally filling out and submitting ballots during the Frisco City municipal election in August of 2025.
Now, let me ask you this question. If this kind of thing is happening at the local level, what do you think is happening higher up? I think we know the answer to that question. Because if an election official at the ground level, locally, are willing to tamper with ballots and risk prison time, what makes anyone think that problem just magically disappears at the state or national level? Just another point of emphasis why the SAFE Act matters. I mean, yeah, it's about preventing non-citizens from participating in elections, but let's not also forget, it's about tightening the safeguards and making it harder for anyone, citizen or not, who might be tempted to manipulate the system. It's also about stopping them also. But let's continue.
Those same records show Denson changed 7 people's ballots. Kiles altered 4 people's ballots, and Bennett changed 9 people's ballots. The criminal charges follow a civil lawsuit that was filed last September by former Frisco City Mayor Alan Lang, who lost the August election. In it, Lang is challenging the vote count, saying 131 illegal absentee ballots were counted, which changed the results. According to the lawsuit, 85 people falsely claimed they would work a 10-hour shift on Election Day to justify voting absentee. 33 people claimed they were physically disabled and couldn't vote in person, and at least 13 people who didn't live in the town voted. The Alabama AG's office says the 3 suspects arrested today are facing a total of 17 counts of ballot harvesting and 20 counts of unlawful use of an absentee ballot. This case is being prosecuted by the Special Prosecution Division for the State Attorney General. In Frisco City, Natalie Williamson, Fox 10.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example of why the SAFE Act is needed, right? Really. Even though this occurred at the local level, small town, the outcome is what really matters. Because of the tampering that these women are being charged with, Mayor believes he lost the election. And now those 3 women will have to answer for their actions in court. But does that change who's currently sitting in that position? No. And that's exactly why we should be doing everything possible to keep our elections fair and secure. Not only not allowing non-citizens to vote, but also not allowing individuals who think they need to ensure their preferred candidate wins by manipulating ballots simply because they have access to the system. That's what this was. This is what we're also seeing unfold in places like Fulton County, Georgia now, where the DOJ has become more involved because they're checking out what happened in 2020. Yet you still have Democrats like Ted Lieu claiming that President Trump is the one who is going to rig and cheat in the elections, right? But then he rejects the bill that would stop election rigging. Make that make sense, but take a listen.
Donald Trump is going to try to do everything to lie, cheat, and steal and to rig the elections. Now, for the House, it does turn out that in many of the states that we need to win, we have a Democratic governor, a Democratic Secretary of State, and a Democratic Attorney General. And we're all going to be fighting back against any attempt by Donald Trump to rig the system. But it's really hard to do so because we don't have one national election. We've got 50 states running these elections with local election officials in different counties. And it's messy, but it's really hard to systematically hack.
If he really meant that, if he truly was worried about Trump cheating in an election, the SAVE Act would actually help address those concerns, right? If your argument is that election integrity is at risk, then strengthening the system shouldn't be controversial. It should actually be welcome. I mean, that's just my thoughts, but let's continue.
The administration calls it the Save America Act, which would mandate strict voter ID requirements. That's already passed the House, and the majority leader, John Thune, says he will call it for a Senate vote next week. So what does that leave Democrats in terms of options on that?
I'm not opposed to having photo ID for elections. I'm opposed to having stupid requirements for photo ID. So under the Extreme Save Act, basically your driver's license doesn't count. You have to prove U.S. citizenship. You know how hard that is for a number of Americans? If you don't have a passport, pretty hard to prove that unless you can somehow find your birth certificate. And there's also been studies, by the way, that more Republicans will have trouble proving these ID requirements than Democrats. So this is just an all-around bad voter suppression bill, bad for all Americans. And I urge the Senate to reject it.
I mean, well, can't just be a driver's license by itself because non-citizens can get a driver's license. And so that leaves too much room for error. And on top of that, when you look at Democrat-run states, we're seeing situations where they're allowing illegal migrants to actually get a commercial driver's license. But this is what Democrats are good at. They create the problem, then complain about it instead of actually fixing it. And honestly, Republicans aren't doing their job either at this point. Congress continues to drag their feet on this issue, and everyone seems comfortable protecting their own self-interest, which brings me to Majority Leader John Thune, who still hasn't gotten the SAVE Act passed and is currently refusing to move forward with the talking filibuster. All of this is happening while a partial government shutdown is going on once again. TSA is not getting paid. DHS is not getting paid. Agencies aren't getting paid. And Republicans keep allowing Democrats to cause chaos. Plain and simple, which is exactly what they want to do as long as Trump is in office, because they're banking on the idea that if they can get the American people frustrated enough, then they can do what they always do, which is blame Trump, because it works to their advantage. But let's get into the clip and then I'll come back. Take a listen.
What's your message to the Republicans in your conference who are pushing over and over again that you can do this with the talking filibuster?
Well, there are a couple things about that. One is, once we get on, if we were to go down that path, it's very hard to pivot and get back to open up the government. I frankly think we ought to. We need a deal, make sure that DHS, TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, all those agencies are funded. And so I'm hopeful there will be a breakthrough on that. That's going to require some, obviously cooperation from the Democrats, which we haven't seen a lot of so far. But we want to get to the SAVE Act. We also, as I mentioned, we've got a housing bill that we can pivot back and forth to if we get a deal to open up the government. That's harder to do once you're in the throes of a talking filibuster. The talking filibuster issue is one on which there is not certainly a unified Republican conference, and there would have to be. If you go down that path, you're talking about the need to table what are going to be numerous amendments, and an ability to keep 50 Republicans unified pretty much on every single vote. And there isn't support for doing that at this point. As I've said, and we will get on it, and we will have a vote on the SAVE Act. The context of that, the process in which we consider it is still an open question, but one that we're having conversations about, but clearly not a unified position, at least among Republicans in the Senate.
But it sounds like that vote might be subject to a 60 vote threshold. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's obviously a very real possibility.
So once again, the problem is the solution. It's Congress and the work or lack of work they're doing. And it's becoming more and more clear that Congress isn't actually doing anything that moves this country forward. Instead, they're just wasting the time of the voters who put them there. And the proof is, unfortunately, overwhelmingly against Republicans, as they gotten very little done in Trump's first year. And so let's check this out. This one comes from the Washington Post, and it reads, the Republican-led Congress managed to land quite a few achievements in 2025, but not necessarily the ones the lawmakers consider commendable, with fewer than 40 bills, ladies and gentlemen, signed into law as of Monday. The House and the Senate set a modern record for lowest legislative output in the first year of a new presidency. And so we're going to go down here because it's been a downward trend of the lack of work Congress has been doing throughout the years. You can see from Trump's first term, 76 public law signed. Biden, first year, 68. And now we go to Trump's second term, first year, 38. 38. In a full calendar year, Congress passed 38 public laws they got signed. Unbelievable. All right, but let's get into this next topic about a Detroit police officer who was suspended after she called Border Patrol, and she almost lost her job because of it. Take a listen.
A police officer out of Detroit fighting back after she says she was suspended without pay after calling Customs and Border Protection during a routine traffic stop. The department saying that Sergeant Denise Wallet violated police policy by contacting immigration agents, but Wallet says she was ordered to do so. What's the truth? Garrett Tenney tries to wade through that today. Good morning, Garrett. What you find out?
Yeah, Bill, good morning to you. That officer is now filing a federal lawsuit against the Detroit Police Department for violating her due process rights. Earlier this month, Sergeant Denise Wallet responded to a traffic stop when officers were having trouble identifying the driver, a Venezuelan man, when a fingerprint scanner didn't work and they found out he had a fake ID. DPD claims Wallet then violated department policy by calling Border Patrol to help figure out who the guy was, which led to him being taken into federal custody. But this new body camera video supports her claims that her lieutenant instructed her to call Border Patrol. Listen to this.
Border Patrol's coming.
That's the one people we can call. Yeah.
I talked to Lieutenant Henry.
Oh, that's even better source right there.
I talked to him and he told me to call them. Yeah.
So this is what you see going on in these sanctuary cities. And we know this is not a one-off situation. This is just the case that we're hearing about. How many people do you think may have fake IDs, entered the country illegally, got a fake ID, and there's no way of tracking who they are, whether they've committed a crime or not? And if local officials are more concerned about basically playing politics, what are the officers actually supposed to do? You can't communicate effectively if there's a language barrier, right? Don't speak the language. You can't contact a federal agency who actually might be able to help identify that person. The individual could be anyone. Who knows? So you can't tell me that you care about community safety if you allow that to happen and then punish the person who actually takes the steps to get that individual off the street. Can't tell me about public safety, but let's continue.
The police chief initially called for the 27-year veteran of the force to be fired, but she ultimately was suspended without pay for 30 days. Not for calling Border Patrol, the department says, but for violating department policy that no officer should use differential treatment of individuals in the context of rendering police services based on a citizen's classification or the member's perception of any such classification. Wallet's attorney is pushing back on those claims and the department's initial story that Wallet was called to the scene to help translate for the driver who didn't speak English.
At no point in time did she contact them for translation purposes. Absolutely no policy was violated whatsoever. And at some point, she called her lieutenant and said, "What do I do? We can't identify this man. What do I do?" And the lieutenant, knowing the policy and following the policy, told her, "Call Border Patrol."
Last week, DPD also suspended a second officer for contacting Border Patrol in an entirely separate incident, something DHS is criticizing, while Michigan Democrats like Rashida Tlaib are celebrating the suspension.
So you heard that. After all of that, her superior tried to throw her under the bus for doing her job, basically. Wow. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and leave it right here for today. Those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. As always, smash the thumbs up button if you do enjoy the content, and to stay locked in with future videos, subscribe, turn those notification bells on. Until next time.